Hello everybody, my name is Allan Langdale and I'd like to tell you about a remarkable place that we visit on Zagram's circumnavigation of the Black Sea trip, and this is a place called the Sumela Monastery. As you can see, it is located in a most remarkable and scenic area. The story of this ancient monastery is that in the late 4th century, two monks from Athens went on an exploration to find a remote place to found a new monastery. And they were led by, finally, after many of years of searching, they were led by a miraculously appearing image of the Virgin Mary. And they followed this floating image, and it led them to a cave in these unlikely cliffs in these remote Pontic mountains that are just near Trabzon. And Trabzon, by the way, is the port of call that we stay at when we go and visit the Sumela Monastery. As you see, it's a pretty remarkable location. It seems as if it's almost hanging off of the cliffs. It almost seems like it's a production of the geology of the mountain itself. The walls that you can see here date from probably the 14th and the 15th century, so these are not sort of the original buildings. Of course, when the first two monks went there, they started small, but over the centuries, the monastery grew. It received imperial patronage from the Byzantine emperors, and interestingly, after the Ottoman Turks took over the Byzantine Empire in 1453, they also extended protection for the monks at this monastery, and there were monks here at this monastery up until the 1920s. Most of the things that you see here have also been undergone some conservation work in the post-war period. This monastery was in pretty dilapidated shape, but in the intervening decades they have fixed it up, and it's actually gone through recently a fairly extensive restoration, not just the buildings but the frescoes I'm going to show you as well, and it only reopened last year, so really looking forward to seeing the work that they did here. I want to draw your attention to something. Now, do you see the walls there? Go to the top and the left, and then look a little bit to the left, and it's kind of camouflaged because it's made out of the same stone as the cliffs themselves. But do you see an arch there, a very tiny arch? And just on the right-hand side of the arch, you might see a little white fleck, and that is somebody walking up a diagonal staircase to enter the monastery complex. The arch, by the way, is one of a series. The rest of them are not visible. These arches held up the aqueduct that provided water for the monastic complex. This, by the way, we always stop at this lookout spot, so you can get a picture like this as well. If you look to the left of the photograph, you'll also see a little bit of a trail. We have about, I don't know, from about this spot, it's about we have to walk because there's no road. It's at the most half a mile. It's a fairly good trail, but you should have your walking shoes, have your walking sticks. It's not too arduous. Here's a closer view of those buildings. You can see there's one projecting porch out of it as well. So the views from here, of course, are absolutely remarkable. Okay, so when we arrive there, this is how you enter the monastery, and so we always take a nice rest here and have a cup of tea and some refreshments before we tackle this staircase. And by the way, look to the left. You see that pier to the left? That's the pier that holds up the aqueduct that I was telling you about before. Anyway, you go up this staircase and you think, okay, well, we're entering these monastic buildings that we have seen from a distance. We've seen this, but you are not entering those buildings, because those structures that you can see from the outside are merely facades. They are merely facades. you can see it's like a little village. There are little churches, little chapels, little shrines, and other more practical types of buildings that were used by the monks who lived here over the years. Probably, and in its heyday, there were probably 100 to 125 monks who lived here. And there would have been pilgrims who were visiting, staying over as well. So this is a big surprise, because you come out of that door at the top, and instead of entering an interior space, you enter another kind of exterior space, and you can see the natural caves that were created by the geology. This is rather remarkable. Remember the miraculous image of the Virgin Mary that led the two Athenian monks to this place? Well, where did it come to rest? It came to rest in this naturally occurring cave. But look what they did. They took the cave and they put a wall up on the outside to create a kind of cave church. And then furthermore, on top of the wall, in front of the wall, you can see this, is covered from top to bottom with frescoes showing biblical scenes. They're roughly in chronological order. For example, the couple of bands at the very top where you can see some orange paint, those are scenes from the book of Genesis, the creation of the world, the creation of Adam, the creation of Eve. And then you lower down, you have New Testament scenes from the life of Christ and so on. Talking about Adam and Eve, I just will show you one of these images. And what's happened here is this: they've already been tempted, and they have eaten the fig. I know we always think of having eaten the apple, but in Orthodoxy it's almost always a fig, not an apple. And on the left-hand side, an angel is at the gates of paradise holding a sword, and has kicked them out of paradise. So you can see Adam and Eve, they've got their hands raised to their heads because they're upset because of what they did. And if you look to the left-hand side, you see Eve again, and you can see that she's spinning because, well, I mean, hey, now you got to work for a living. You had it good in paradise, but you messed that up, so now you have to go get a job. So I love these kind of vernacular elements that are in these frescoes. They're really quite remarkable. Another image, so I showed you an Old Testament image, and I'll just show you one example of later Christian things, New Testament. Here's the death of the Virgin Mary, and you can see the Virgin Mary in her purple robe, and she's lying on her bed, and around her are the apostles who are mourning her passing. But the other big surprise is when you go inside the cave itself, because inside the cave is also all of the natural outcroppings of rock in the ceiling of the cave and the wall of the cave are also covered in these fresco paintings. And it's really kind of remarkable because they follow the undulating contours of the naturally occurring stone. Here's this is probably a not too old 18th century fresco, and this is Saint Theophilus, and he's obviously having a little bit of a problem with a couple of lions. He's being fed to the lions, and this was his martyrdom. Look at this wonderful image of the Virgin Mary with the young Christ. He holds up his hands in a blessing gesture. She holds up her hands in a worshiping gesture, and it's really fantastic. I mean, it's really very powerful. Also have an image of Christ Pantocrator, the judge, the ruler of all, also in the ceiling. So there are innumerable wonderful frescoes in the cave portion of the monastery church as well. And there's a detail of the Pantocrator. Absolutely wonderful stuff. So thanks, everybody. I hope you will come on the Zagrum Expedition's circumnavigation of the Black Sea so that we can go and visit the Sumela Monastery together. Thank you very much.